Before we start today's video, I want to encourage you to drop a like on the video, comment and share it. The left are desperate to convince us that this shit isn't happening. And the only way to convince people it is by showing them the proof, which is this video. So engage with it as much as possible to get this in front of as many people as possible. I think this is really important.
Target self-destructed this week after partnering with a trans Satanist who designed children's clothing with "tuck your junk."
The woke agenda and the elites in this country are not trying to sexualize kids, and it isn't happening. And if you think so, you're a conspiracy theorist, right-wing bigot.
Hands on your ankle, feet on the ground, let's go! Oh, ass everywhere, ass everywhere, ass everywhere, ass everywhere, ass everywhere.
We have a school administrator in California actually arguing that we need to, and they are, even as we speak, teaching pedophilia to children as just another option for sexual orientation.
This is a worksheet that my 10-year-old daughter brought home from school. Part of her homework was to discuss with her father his erections and ejaculation.
In public schools, we're inviting transvestites to come to read to our kindergartners who actually have records, twice it happened in Houston, for having molested kids in the past.
Normal. I'll read some of this for you. It says, after a bit, a person's becomes moist and slippery, and the clitoris becomes hard. After a bit, a person's becomes erect, stiff, and larger. Sometimes a bit of clear fluid that may contain a few sperm comes out of the tip of the penis and makes it wet.
Can we, sir, I'm sorry.
Was it something I said? If you don't want to hear it in a school board meeting, why should children be able to check it out of the school system?
If there was a shadowy cabal running everything, apparently one of the codes of conduct of this tiny group of super elite people, the New World Order and the World Economic Forum, one of their codes of, obviously they don't have much ethics, but one of their ethics is if they're going to do something truly evil, they have to tell people first. It's one of their codes, apparently. There's a clip of Bill Gates talking about population control using a pandemic state injectable floating around. I'll try and find that for you as well. But that's an example of them trying to tell us before they do something. This is legitimately, confusingly insane that one, we are taking this and accepting this. Two, that some people say it isn't happening and stick their heads in the sand when it's about literally the future generation. And three, what the fuck?
Target self-destructed this week after partnering with a trans Satanist who designed children's clothing with "tuck your junk."
Why is a global corporation doing this? If there's not a conspiracy, if it's like right-wing conspiracy to say that there's an agenda, why is a company going against its own interests, going against its own financial interests to push aggressively such a sexualized agenda to kids? Why? Let me know in the comments. If you count yourself as anti-woke and you don't want to support these big globalist corporations and you want to support a nice little dude making some anti-woke clothes and some anti-woke stuff who's nice and you want to support his videos and you like him, perhaps you like him, I don't know. But if you did, I'm just saying if you did, you might want to watch this.
This one might be the worst yet. We have a school administrator in California actually arguing that we need to, and they are, even as we speak, teaching pedophilia to children as just another option for sexual orientation. Give us the story.
You know, this concerned mother asked the assistant superintendent of curricula in the Brea Olinda School District in California why they were teaching children pedophilia and normalizing anal sex. And you would expect the administrator, the assistant superintendent, to say, "Oh my goodness, that's horrible. Where did you get such an idea? We would never do something like that." But instead, what she says is, well, you know, this is a sexual orientation that has occurred, and so it's, quote, really important to teach the children about this. And they are.
They're teaching pedophilia in school. Right here. I explain to you that this is done because we are talking about historical perspectives of how gender relations and different types of sexual orientations have existed in history.
This is not about something occurred and therefore we have to teach it. I mean, if that was the case, we'd be teaching all kinds of things. What it is about is normalizing every type of perversion. And I want people to realize here the implications of this. This is more than just confusing and perverting and sexualizing the children. Under California law, and this is the case in about half of the states now, and they're working on it at the federal law with the Equality Act, discrimination based on sexual orientation is illegal. So if pedophilia is a sexual orientation, do public schools now need to hire pedophiles so that we don't discriminate on their sexual orientation? Do churches need to hire pedophiles so that they don't discriminate based on sexual orientation to run their children's ministries?
We've seen it, haven't we, Alex? That at American public libraries and in public schools, we're inviting transvestites to come to read to our kindergartners who actually have records. Twice it happened in Houston for having molested kids in the past.
You know, this was the inevitable result of this, right? And now in California's fake history textbooks, they're praising this LGBT superhero, Harvey Milk, for being, the first elected openly homosexual activist. Turns out that guy also had a history of raping underage boys, and it is rape, right? The children cannot consent. And some of them went on to kill themselves, and yet they've made him into a superhero in California's textbooks as part of this new law that mandates the positive presentation of homosexuals and their alleged contributions to history.
What they're going to have to do if they continue this, if this goes unchallenged, is they're going to have to teach children that to oppose the sexual advances of adults simply because they're adults is now a kind of bigotry and orientation phobia. That's the next logical thing, to convince kids that if they're not considering sex with older people, then they're being this.
Drag shows are not trying to indoctrinate kids. If you think that, you're a bigot. This is a drag show in Melbourne, Australia, and this is a toddler.
Hands on the feet when you're walking to the hands on the wall, hands on the wall, hands on your ankle, feet on the ground, let's go. Oh, ass everywhere, ass everywhere, ass everywhere, ass everywhere, ass everywhere.
I feel sorry for this guy. He's obviously completely flabbergasted, as I am, by this shit.
I wish to raise a matter this afternoon for the attention of the Minister for Education, and I have to say it is not often in this job I am absolutely shocked. I thought I'd seen everything, but this one is just beyond words. It is a note from a constituent who says, "Hi Bernie, this is a worksheet that my 10-year-old daughter brought home from school," and it includes a photo of the worksheet. "Part of her homework was to discuss with her father his erections and ejaculation. I find this very disturbing and sickening, as indeed do I have to say. I have complained to the school and was told it was just part of the curriculum. Can you advise who else I should make a complaint to?" Well, I could go on for days who she could complain to. "My daughter still plays with dolls and writes letters to the tooth fairy. There is no way any little girl should be told to ask these questions." Well, so say all of us. What the hell is going on in this state when 10-year-old girls are told to go home and talk to your father about his erections and about his ejaculations? What the hell is going on here? How the hell are we supposed to protect our kids when this sort of perversion is in our schools? This is what is being dished up to them on a daily basis. In a primary school. Not even a secondary school, a primary school. This is just unbelievable. It's staggering. I could not imagine the reaction. I have 3 daughters. I could not imagine the reaction of any of them if they were told to do that. They would be traumatised for life. I don't think they'd ever recover. I'm not sure I'd ever recover. This is just deplorable.
They're not trying to push sexual ideas onto kids in school libraries, and if you think so, you're obviously a right-wing extremist.
Perfectly normal. I'll read some of this for you. It says, after a bit, a person's becomes moist and slippery, and the clitoris becomes hard. After a bit, a person's becomes erect, stiff, and larger.
Pastor.
Sometimes a bit of clear fluid that may contain a few sperm comes out of the tip of the penis and makes it wet.
Can we, sir, I'm sorry.
Was it something I said? If you don't want to hear it in a school board meeting, why should children be able to check it out of the school system? We have perverts that are perverting our kids. And you all sit back smug in your chairs, but you don't want me to read it. Why? Does it bother you? Yes or no? You can't answer that question. You want to know why? Because politically speaking, you can't say that it's wrong. And you don't want me to read the filth because it exposes the truth. How dare you tell me to stop reading it? If you don't want to hear it, why should the children have to see it?
Pastor, your time is up. Thank you.
That makes two of us.
This guy, actually, the question that I posed earlier, why would a company be going against its financial interests to aggressively push such an insane agenda? This guy has an interesting explanation. Check this out.
There's three initiatives that are put down through the World Economic Forum. One is called CEI, one is called ESG, and one is called DEI. These initiatives are put down as social initiatives from the World Economic Forum, the most powerful people on the planet, through the banks to the big corporations. These corporations, unlike my business, actually depend on that financing 100%. So if they don't do the things that these three initiatives, the CEI, the ESG, and the DEI say, they actually lose their funding. So they can't operate their business. So you say, well, aren't these people smart enough to understand why they're destroying their business? They can't not do it. Because if they don't do it, they won't get their funding. So they can't operate. So they have no choice but to do it. And then they drive their business into the dirt. And here's why that's happening. Because the people who run these companies, the officers of the companies, are not the founders of the companies. These are people that are many generations removed and many degrees of caring about the actual brand removed. All right. So these people are college graduates who think they know a whole bunch of stuff because they have an advanced degree, and they are making decisions that are, basically about the money and thinking that eventually people will adopt this and it will stop. But it's not going to stop, and it's not supposed to stop. This is what people are failing to realize. What's happening is we are dealing with a communist insurgency that is undermining the values and the identity of the American public. What they are doing is they are intentionally creating a scenario where the American people rejecting this initiative is actually hurting iconic American brands that remove much of the American identity. So when you name these companies off, all of these companies represent America when you think of them traditionally. So now they're removing part of the identity, which is part of the communist process called demoralization. If there's less identity in America, there's less to fight for, which makes it easier to conquer. All right. Then on top of it, one of the goals of communism is to create two classes of people, very poor and very rich. And so what they're doing here is they are getting the American public to cancel their own companies that actually hurts their own neighbors who are good, hardworking American people. Because the people at Bud Light at the top are not the ones feeling the pain here. It's the delivery drivers. It's the hardworking red, white, and blue Americans that believe the same motherfucking shit that you all believe, who are getting fired or laid off or losing because of this. So they have run an operation to push this initiative down through the companies intentionally, where the companies cannot resist it because they're required to do so for their funding, knowing that the American people are going to reject it and destroy these companies, creating the lower class system that they're trying to create in the first place.